Hey, I'm Paul from Backstage Past Rock News, and I'm delighted to be joined on the line by a legendary guitarist, Bruce Kulick. Hi, Bruce, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And I know you're calling me from a very far away place compared to Las Vegas, where I am. But music brings everybody together, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Vegas, Loch Ness Monster, it's almost the same thing,
Exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
Just about the same, yeah.
Crazy monsters, that's it. I want to
Sure.
start with Meatloaf because this is one that really intrigues me. Obviously, Bat Out of Hell was a massive album, and you and your brother Bob toured with that album, didn't you? With Meatloaf, and
Yep.
went around the world with it. I mean, how did you get involved with that to start with, and what was it like touring on such a monster album?
Yeah, I mean, believe me, growing up in New York had its advantages, certainly with back then. The word was out looking for guitar players. My brother, being 4 years older than me, was a bit more ahead of the game career-wise. Okay. So it was very easy for him to hear about things like that. And the fact that they were looking for two guitar players, kind of like that Hunter Wagner thing that Lou Reed used and Alice Cooper used, Steve Hunter, Dick Wagner, tremendous guitar players. And Bob knew Dick Wagner and did a little work out actually with Alice Cooper, ironically enough, for when Steve went off to something. Anyway, they were looking for a double, two guitar players, and we just happened to fit the bill. The record was very unusual when we heard it. Todd Rundgren I loved. Okay, so for me, there was this. For me, the Todd's riffs were like an Eric Clapton and other players that I admired, and I knew that he put his stamp on that record, quite a bit. And my brother's not the guy to study and dissect a solo and then recreate it. He was his own. Sometimes I was envious of that, but then again, I used to like to, build things. So when I listened to guitar players, I wanted to deconstruct. What do they do here? How do you do that? So it was really valuable for Meatloaf and the band and the management to know. Well, when there was important Todd Rundgren riffs, I had it covered,
Yeah.
and my brother had all the attitude and pizzazz, and the two of us worked off each other like that. And now we're on tour, starting off very rocky, to be honest. It didn't go well in the very, very beginning. People were like 300-pound, sweating guy in a tuxedo with this kind of strange piano player, 9 people on stage. We got booed off the stage when we were opening for Cheap Trick, but somehow by the time in a short period of time we did the CBS convention, which was very important. CBS, records. Okay. And a lot of big people were there, and all of a sudden they started pouring money into Meatloaf's album to get on the radio, and the phones lit up. And the next thing you know, we went from, just playing smaller places and theaters and things to arenas, you know. And that year was wild to go from nothing to headlining arenas and touring the world, you know. It was a long year, and there was a lot of it that was very hard for me, just emotionally. I believe, and I love Meatloaf, so this is not a slag, but he was definitely using something, and he was just very, what mood is he going to be in? You know what I mean? Look out. My brother wasn't afraid of him, but I was, you know what I mean? And and by the way, of course, years later, I always had a great relationship with him, and it was so sad when he passed away. But it was a great experience for me because that would kind of get me ready for Kiss, you know? Doing arena tours is different, and it's wonderful, and yet it's very hard, and it's a different kind of pressure, and it's different things that you have to deal with. But I will admit, I'm really glad I got that under my belt before I got the call to join Kiss, you know. And I'm very aware that Meatloaf is just worldwide super famous, and especially in England, you know.
Yes.
Um, Although it came up recently, I had lunch with a guy here in Vegas who knows a lot of musicians, and he's in a completely different industry, food and beverage, but loves Meatloaf. And there was another guy that I met, and I started sharing Meatloaf stories and sending photos. And then he's good friends with one of Meat's daughters, Pearl a Day, who I know and I've met, and he just had a birthday recently too, Meatloaf. So everybody was talking about Meatloaf. So I just hope that album, that music, and the legend of Meatloaf carries on forever. I do. And my one regret was that the band that I performed with, which was that original Bat Out of Hell tour, that we never got a chance to do that one more time. Now he
Yeah.
went out many times with talented players, good foils as the singer, but we had Carla DeVito, and Steinman was performing with us for at least I think the first half of the year. And I'll never forget, and the photos I have of that are precious to me. And many of my Kiss fans, they may not be a Meatloaf fan, but everyone knows Meatloaf, but they didn't know it. You know what I mean? I'm always sharing that. And it was an album that my wife Lisa, and we're very tight about everything, and she's a terrific singer, besides being my wife and a great cook and all the other things, an artist. But she grew up listening to that album, meant everything to her. And we have performed Two Out of Three Ain't Bad many times at some events when we do them, and she just kills it. And she says, that's my favorite song. You know what I mean? So there's an interesting thread in my life that Meatloaf comes up a lot in interesting ways, for sure.